Okay, thank you, Mr. Talmax. Yeah, I'll start to share. It's 7 o'clock, so I suppose we can hit the ground running. And yeah, okay, so I'm going to share my screen with you. And then we are going to be discussing a very interesting topic, prophylactic thinking. But actually, before we do that, I want to at least get an understanding of what everyone thinks about this topic, just to know where we are, and then we can begin in the lesson. So maybe I can start with Rowan. What do you understand by prophylactic thinking? Welcome, Matthew.
Isn't prophylactic thinking like where you thinking about moves that stop your opponent from moving?
Okay, move that stop your opponent from moving. All right, thanks, Rowan. Okay, Darren, what do you think prophylactic thinking means?
Stopping your opponent's ideas before they have start.
Okay, stopping the opponent's ideas before they start. Very good. Okay, and Burton, what do you think prophylactic thinking means?
I Googled it today already. So I can read you if you want that answer.
Okay, well, you prepared in advance.
Yeah, it's a move that stops the opponent from taking action for fear of some type of reprisal. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And it
Thanks.
prevents your opponent from improving their position. Something to that effect, yeah.
Thanks. Okay, Matthew, I was just asking a question when you arrived. Welcome. Hello, Matthew, you are with us?
Yes, Coach, I'm here.
Okay, great. I was asking a question. What do you understand? What do you think prophylactic thinking means?
I'm not sure what it means.
Okay, no, that's fine. Thanks, Matthew. And welcome, Kalombo. Welcome. Hello, Kalombo, you're with us? Oh, okay, maybe the audio is not connected yet. But I'm asking a question, Kalombo. What do you think prophylactic thinking means? If you can't speak, you can just type in the chat. Just want to get at least a feel of what everyone sort of understands or has read up, or at least has learned. So, yeah. Okay, so whilst Kalombo gets to the question, I think we can start first of all with a position. So I'm going to start with an exercise as a segue to this question. What do we think prophylactic thinking means? And then we'll go into the material tonight. So I'm going to set up a position, and then we're going to do an exercise. So I would encourage taking about 5 minutes or so to think of what you would do in this particular position. About 5 minutes, and then after 5 minutes, we'll start with the lesson. I'll give some ideas and also start with the lesson. So let me get to the position. I just need to quickly grab my tablet, and then I'll set it up. Okay, I'm back. So I'm going to get the position and then we'll start with that puzzle. I'll set it up just now, and then we can begin. Okay, in fact, I can set it up while sharing the screen so that you can already start having some ideas. Hopefully no one has seen the position before. Yeah, so that at least it will be something new for everyone. So again, I encourage that you would really try to participate. Take 5 minutes to come up with what you would do here with white. And then I'll try to have everyone say their plans or their decision making, to say it out loud, so that we can all hear what you were thinking about the position, what you saw, what you understood, and what move would you make in this position. So the bond structure is ready. Just need to put the rest of the pieces. So this is the position, and it's white to play. So again, I encourage you to take at least 5 minutes. So we'll come back at 7:12, and then I'll unmute, and then we can discuss the position. So really try to invest some thought into the position. White to move. So I must just add this one point. This position, there are two central questions that you need to ask yourself. Number one, what does my opponent want to do? That's the number one question. And then number two, what would my opponent play if it was his turn in this position? If it was black's turn to play, what would they play? So those two questions you can use to help you find the solution to the position.
Yuza, Zumusangana, Bana Chipenyu, Zumusangana kwanza. Eyo sasa bote ruhusa le.
Mafuta
Mazari.
nivia.
Yeah. Masa idrishiti.
Oh, sorry. Someone is unmuted. Sorry, I was muted. There's a few more people that have joined in, so they might have been wondering what is all with this silence. So I was giving a test position as a way to introduce this topic of prophylaxis, prophylactic thinking. So I gave the people who had arrived earlier for at least 5 minutes to really get into the position. So, and I'll ask the questions. So I would like to ask Rowan, what did you understand about this position and what would you play? So walk me through your thought process in this position.
Okay. As white, I'd be looking about trying to make a D5 advance. But I'm just trying to make sure that it all works out because black might want to just exchange everything and then try and exchange the rooks and try and play queen to E1 checkmate if he gets the rooks exchanged. So I was trying to, I was calculating D5, E takes D5, C takes D5, then something like rook takes D5. And rook takes, queen takes. So I'm not sure like how like if that's actually good for white or not, but that's pretty much what I've been trying to figure out, whether the D5 works or not.
Okay, so that's fine. So just to test the central questions I presented, what does black want to do? Okay, maybe actually I will do that after everyone is answered, so that we can walk through together. But thanks, Rowan. So the next person, Matthew, what would you play here as white, and walk me through your thought process as you were, I assume, doing the position. Just let us know what you were thinking and what you are planning to do here with white.
I wasn't really sure what to do for white.
Okay, but did you at least try to find a plan or some idea that you could use here?
I don't really have any plans.
Okay, no, that's okay. Thanks, Matthew. Honesty is a very good policy. You learn a lot in chess like that. All right, so.
Dion,
Yes, hello.
can I say my idea?
Okay, yes.
Okay. So as white, I would first put my bishop on h6, right? And then try to open that d file so that somehow I can mate like the back rank mate, because my bishop would be on h6. That is my plan. Yes.
Okay.
So
Thank you.
Yes.
Awesome. Oh, you wanted to add some more? It's fine. You can say.
No, it's fine.
Okay.
It's fine. Yeah.
All right. Okay. So, yeah, Mr. Burton, what would you play here? What is your idea? What is your
Darren will answer that.
No.
He also gets his chance.
We've got the same answer here. That's why I'm discussing.
All right.
Yeah. So the thing is that what we're looking at is more in terms of what was black's plans here, because we asked what if black had to move, what is it that black would want to do? So we were looking at saying that maybe black would consider playing c5, pushing that pawn and um, trying to initiate an exchange there, because if the exchange goes through, then there's this queen that potentially can, if the rook gets into the exchange, the rook on d1 gets into the exchange, then the queen is threatening here on e1. So that is kind of how we were looking at it and saying, what is it that we need to do to trying to figure out what's the best way to counter that if that happens.
Okay, no, thanks so much. Very good suggestion. Okay, so yeah, I think those were the people who were here when we started. I know Mr. Taumakas is with us, but I think, yeah, it's okay. We'll continue now from here. And then the idea, so just to address a few of the suggestions. So Takuzwa suggested Bishop h6, but immediately we see that that move, okay, it puts the bishop here, but the idea is to checkmate. First of all, I must add this. So, and I'll give some definitions. Prophylactic thinking is mainly asking yourself two questions. It's practicing the habit to ask yourself two questions. And I have them here in the study. When you go into the study, you'll be able to see this. I wrote it as a pinned comment. So 2 steps to cultivate, in gardening, you must work the land if you want to get nice veggies and nice fruits. So the same thing with our brain. We need to get rid of the weeds and get rid of the bad plants. So we need to get into the habit or the discipline, doing it, training the habit of prophylactic thinking. We simply have to ask ourselves 2 main questions. What is your opponent going to do? That's the first and most important question. And number 2, what would they play if it was their move? That's really basically what it is. And here, the idea of prophylaxis was put forward by Aaron Nimzovich. I apologize for this thing that is in the way. Don't know. Okay, all right. By Aaron Nimzovich, a very, very strong chess master, chess player in his time. His very famous chess book, My System, touches on this topic of prophylactic thinking. And in that book, he mentioned the topic of overprotection. He was one of the first top players to understand this idea, and he tried to use it in many of his games. So it basically, you are trying to take some preventative measures, right, that will stop the opponent from doing something that you would not like. Usually like a positional point. Say they take an important square, they put their rook on an open file, they centralize their knight on an outpost. So such things you try to, or even to activate their pieces, to put them on good and active squares. So prophylactic thinking is using preventative measures to stop the opponent from getting these positional advantages. So it's more of like it's a way of thinking. It's a logical way of thinking. You don't want to allow the opponent to do what they want to do, right? Because there are 2 players playing on the chessboard. So you must realize that, first of all, that the opponent has some ideas, they have plans. But usually on the chessboard, just like in real life, we are usually too interested in our own ideas and our own feelings that we don't really pay attention to what the other individual feels or has suggested. So the same thing happens on the chessboard. We have a tendency to focus too much on our own plans and only to be shocked when the plans don't work. So the first thing that we needed to achieve here was to ask this first question: what is your opponent going to do? So well done to Mr. Burton and his son Darren. They managed to get an idea. C5 is something that black will try to do. Right, that's one of the ideas. But c5 at the moment doesn't work immediately, right? What really the solution to the position is this move. If it was black's turn, black wants to play queen to f5. Black wants to try and exchange these queens because black has two rooks that are attacking on d4 and the bishop here. So if we get rid of this queen, we have 3 defenders versus 3 attacking pieces, which means that is a potential weakness. And if we get c5, white will lose a pawn or get a bad pawn structure, which allows black to get an advantage. So the move that we needed to see, what is black going to do? Black is going to play queen f5, and there's no real logical way to prevent the queen exchange, because after queen f5, we can't really put the queen anywhere. We have to exchange, and after g takes f5, white has a weakness here on d4 that is attacked by 3 of black's pieces, and black will threaten to play c5, where we can't take because the pawn will be pinned to the rook on d3. Black would win a rook, and as well, advancing doesn't work. The opponent will get an isolated pawn, and it will be a weakness that we have to defend. So queen f5 was the idea that black wanted to play here, and this is the exercise taken from a game that was played in 1957 by Komov versus Geller. So here, white needs an escape square for the queen to find where to put the queen. So in the game, white played a very strange move, a move that no one had suggested, but it is dealing with these 2 questions. What is your opponent going to do? What would they play if it was their move? So Mr. Komov in this position realized this very powerful threat of exchanging queens, and black has a very easy endgame because black doesn't really have too many weaknesses, right? So after queen f5, so the move was natural. The move suggests itself, because that's the point. When you ask yourself these 2 questions, you must use them to help you in your decision making. Because if you find out that the opponent has a threat or has an idea that will give them a better position or worsen your position, and you must also decide, that's important. There is a thing in chess called real threats and non-real threats. And usually you only want to focus on defending real threats. Because queen f5 is a real threat, it gives white a bad endgame where white is going to be defending. So it is important we stop this idea. But if this idea wasn't very serious, white doesn't need to waste time defending it. Don't defend threats that are not real. Meaning if the opponent carries out the threat, they're actually going to get a bad position at the end of the variation. You must allow your opponent to go wrong. There is a very famous thing that grandmasters like to say, that you must make the move that allows the opponent to go wrong. Why should you stop your opponent from making a mistake? So only defend real threats. But if it's a threat that is not going to work, allow it, because you will punish the opponent for making a bad move that is short-sighted. They only saw one move and didn't see the response. So in the game, we'll just briefly look at how the game finished. So this solves the problem of f5. Now black can't go here anymore. And as well, it even gives the queen some extra room to move. So g4 was played. Black played queen to b4. After queen b4, king to g2. Now the back rank also was an issue. A few people mentioned it. Rowan and Mr. Burton. Queen e1 mate was coming. So it was defended. Just quickly about the decision Takuzo wanted to take. Playing bishop h6 would simply run into this point of queen here. And now so that is the thing. White has an idea to attack here, but usually it is important that about prophylactic thinking, you need to be objective. You need to judge the position very fair. You mustn't be biased to your own ideas. You need to really weigh the ideas of the opponent. Judge for yourself. If I make this move, is this position really going to be good? Because now the queen has space to run away, but if it runs away, they are going to lose a pawn. So after this captures is pretty much forced, And here the same position is arises. The bishop has to come back here and admit that bishop h6 wasn't very accurate. And now this endgame favors black because black has a weakness to target. White can't really free themselves. The pawn is pinned to the rook on d3. c5 in some positions can be played. Not now. Black can prepare the position by activating their king, and white is going to be just playing a worse endgame here. White won't be playing actively. The pieces are all tied to defending this pawn. And this is what it means to have a passive position. When a piece of high value defends something of less value, that means it's a passive position. So white didn't want to end up with this position. That's why white took the preventative measures, which is prophylactic, to stop queen f5 altogether. Now the game continued queen to b4. After queen b4, king g2, and then queen to e7. Now, of course, black was thinking of bishop g5, trying to exchange this bishop for this bishop so that this pawn will have one less defender, or bishop to g7, and also prepare f5. So now the idea that Rowan wanted to work now works in this position. d5 makes sense now because the queen has a less active role. It's not even defending d5 anymore. And as well, we don't have that back rank problem to worry about. So that's the point. Is usually good planning always takes into account what the opponent can do. If your plan doesn't focus on the opponent's ideas, it's a bad plan. It's hoping chess, as I like to call it. Hope, you hope. You won't make progress in chess by playing hoping chess. You must train the habit, and that's why it's important here in the study. I put it the habit of prophylactic thinking. Just like in real life, to pick a habit, you need to try and do it. Say someone say they want to start jogging. They will have to try and incorporate jogging into their daily life. Whether it's jogging for 10, 15 minutes every day, the more they do it, the more their stamina builds. And now they'll start to run maybe 30 minutes a day. And as the habit grows, they'll go to hour and so forth and so on. So this is a habit to think these two central questions. These are very, very important questions in chess. You go from making one move blunders to not making that many blunders by training this habit. So it's a very powerful thing to consider. It's not just something you can, that's nice, that's cool, it's a new idea. But if the real serious chess learner puts effort and dedication to practicing just a habit to ask these questions on every turn, you'll go up a level. This is a guarantee. You'll go up a level. Your chess strength and understanding will improve. Your general play will improve because you are now more focused on the opponent's plan. Because the general mistake of every chess player is thinking, I think of super plans. My plans are so strong, my opponent has not want to know what hit them. There is no such thing. Chess is a game played by two people, and the sooner one comes to that fact, it will be very helpful. So yeah, we'll just look briefly at how this ended. d5, black made a blunder. C takes d5 was better because after c takes, black can just play b6. And here after white takes, black can exchange the rooks. At least black will have some chances to maybe hold. But this is a blunder because after this, queen takes e7, rook takes e7. And now here, g5, chasing the bishop away and also driving it to a more, it is protecting its piece. After g5, black played bishop to e5. After bishop e5, bishop captures. So black has lost a pawn here. And after the game soon ended, bishop to c7, c takes d5. After c takes d5, rook e d7, h4. And black here, white stands much better. And actually, the result of the game, or they didn't put the result of the game in this book, but yeah, I'm sure we can quickly confirm who won. But here white has an advantage. White has space advantage. And if black captures here, black will have an isolated pawn. Say black takes, black has an isolated pawn, and usually the way to play against an isolated pawn is to control the square in front of it. So by putting our bishop here, this could be a good move. We control the longest diagonal on the chessboard. This bishop is better than that bishop. We have 2 pawns versus 1. So white is going to create a pass pawn, an outside pass pawn, and white has very good chances to win in this game, whilst black cannot really play actively. Black already can't even try to take the open file. Rook e7 falls immediately to bishop f6, making an attack. Well, it would have been a pin, but it's the same valued piece, but just winning the rook. Double attack. So rook e8, the pawn falls. The rooks are tied down to the pawn. So only one player is playing to win here. Okay, so that was more like an introduction to the prophylactic thinking. And we are going to see some practical games now on how this works. So prophylactic thinking is a way of thinking in all 3 parts of the chess game, because we know chess is divided into 3 parts. The
I think Dion just lost his connection now, so we just wait for him to come back.
Yeah, sorry about that. Technical difficulties. I just quickly had to change my internet connection. Sorry about that. Okay. Yeah. All right, but everything is well. Let's continue. Right, we're going to start with the games now to see what we have been talking about from a practical standpoint. Just need to do this. Don't need the whiteboard. All right. Thank you. Right. Sorry, technical difficulties. I apologize. Now, okay, let's continue with the lesson. So I was saying before the internet rudely interrupted that prophylaxis can be done throughout all the 3 parts of the game of chess: in the opening, in the middle game, and in the end game. You can use this way of thinking because, again, I cannot emphasize it enough. Practicing this habit of thinking can really make you a powerful chess player by simply being concerned about what does the opponent want to do, or what are they going to do, and what would they play if it was their move. And then you make your decisions based on those 2 questions. or based on the answers to those two questions. So also what will help is usually when you learn a concept in chess, you want to see the best players doing it. Right? The best players who are the masters of such a technique, prophylaxis. So we're going to see all 4 games involve a player who was a world champion at one point. So here, this one is Mikhail Botvinnik, former world chess champion, very, very strong player, very renowned for his power of analysis and calculation. He started the Botvinnik Chess School that Garry Kasparov, former world chess champion, went to, and former world champion Anatoly Karpov went to as well. So we are learning from one of the greats here. So let's observe how he played this game. So the opening is what we are focusing on here. There is one thing I must mention. A few people, I don't know if anyone here is there that would like to acknowledge, get used to just playing such moves as h3 and a3 because maybe they were told they must do it. Prophylactic thinking doesn't mean you must just make passive moves. This is what many people misunderstand about prophylactic thinking, that it's just making passive moves. Actually, prophylactic can be involved in attack and in defense. You can make a very attacking move. That is the prophylactic. The main purpose of prophylactic thinking is stopping the ideas of your opponent that can affect your position, that can cause your position to go bad. So playing prophylactic moves doesn't mean it's just some random moves that are wasting time and also weakening your position. Only these moves must be done when it's absolutely necessary. And like I said earlier on, you must only prevent real threats. If it's not a real threat, don't waste your time investing in the defense. Allow your opponents to go wrong. So I just wanted to mention here, because every move you make in the opening is judged on 2 reasons. How does your move control the center, and how is it helping you develop pieces? So you should be very careful not to waste time making moves like h3 and a3 for no reason. Only when there's a real reason you do it. But otherwise, you are breaking the 2 most important rules in the opening. What you must do in the opening: control the center and develop pieces towards the center. So if a move doesn't help you do that, you are doing what you must not do in the opening. So I must make sure that at least that point is clear, so that people won't be encouraged to just waste time and make these moves and claim that they are doing prophylactic moves. That's not true. So let's continue. So here, this is a typical position in the Queen's Gambit opening. So now we'll arrive at our first key moment. Now, who would like to tell me why has Black not played this move c6? So if you have the solution, you can simply unmute and say, why has Black, why is he taking so much time playing knight f8? Why not play c6? Why is Black not doing that? Okay, maybe I'll pick someone. Okay.
Maybe Black's trying to just keep the idea of playing c5 in one move alive, rather than playing c6 and then later deciding to play c5.
Very good job on that one. That is the idea. At least part of it is playing c6 might waste time. So this is also important. White still has not decided where they want to castle. So Black doesn't want to commit to c6 if he's going to start an apply, because typically in this position, if White castles alongside, Black's plan is to play c5, a6, b5, and rook to c8. So if you waste time playing c6, White has just gained a move. And usually, when we castle opposite sides, the race is who's going to checkmate first. So any moves that waste time are not welcomed. So that's why you must pay attention in the opening. Don't just make moves without, make just automatic moves. Try to find out what is the plan of the opponent, because the opponent is a preparation stage. It's not really where one starts to attack now. The attacks only, or the attacking and defending starts in the middle game. So in the opening, you are trying to make sure your pieces are arranged in the best possible squares to fight in the middle game. So that here, Paul Keres, again, a very strong chess player who has contributed so much to chess, decided against the idea of playing c6 because of knowing the typical structure. So here, let's just quickly see this position in the database. So this position, this is an old database, but these are masters nevertheless. It's people over 2200 and above, with world champions also included in that list, or at least challengers. So for Nigel Short, who played in the World Championship match, and Ata Yusupov again also was one of the strongest players in his time. So this position is not very famous now in recent practice, because maybe of the reasons that we will see that the world champion Botvinnik used in this position. So, but really that's the idea I wanted to strike out in prophylaxis in the opening. We had to speak against these careless moves, a3, a6, just randomly pushing pawns for no reason, only prevent what is really important. And also don't just develop your pieces with your eyes closed, just randomly. Know what is your opponent trying to do. So that's why here, Paul Keres waited to see what white is going to do. So the world champion castled the short side. Now, we now know we can play c6 without wasting a move, because c6 supports the center. We always want to try and maintain a pawn in the center in the opening. So now we can play c6 knowing that the plan of queen side is completely gone now. So Keres played the move. And after rook b1, so here, let's just try to switch the board. What is white trying to do? What is white's plan in this position, in this opening? So anyone can unmute. And
I think white is trying to expand on the queen side.
yes, white is trying to, sort of, who was saying?
It's Monashi.
Okay, Monashi. Thank you, Monashi. Yes, that is true. This is a typical plan in this position. This is when it's called a minority attack, when you have 2 pawns versus 4. So on the queen side, black has 4 pawns, white is 2. Or if you want to be exact, 2 versus 3. So black's plan is to play b4, a5, and then b5, so that they'll create at least a weak pawn on c6 or an isolated pawn. Either way, black will have to make a decision. So typically when you play this position with black, your plan is to answer the attack on the queen side with the attack on the king side. So black has to come up with some moves like knight to g6, threatening to play h6, which will force the exchange of the bishops. And black would try to play bishop d6, threatening to go bishop captures and knight g4 check, and try to prevent this real threat. Here you can do it like this, but these measures are usually weakening moves. So black has to come up with a plan to attack on the king side. But in this game, Mr. Keres made a very poor move, bishop d6. So bishop d6 has an idea. So I've given it away that it is a poor move. What is the idea of bishop d6?
Is the idea to play bishop takes h2, king takes, and knight g4. Check.
Yes, exactly. So as we are learning about prophylactic thinking, so here Mr. Botvinnik would have been asking these 2 questions. What is the opponent going to do? So what is Keres going to play now? And what would he play if it was his move? Sorry. So in this position, he asked those 2 questions. And before, that's how it helped him make his decision. So the answers from these 2 questions helps you to make a decision. So Mr. Botvinnik understood the idea This is the threat. That's what Mr. Keres would do if it was his turn to play. He's going to play bishop h2 check. If we take, then knight to g4. Our bishop is hanging, and usually hanging pieces drop off. Don't have hanging pieces in general. Many tactics happen because you have pieces that are not protected. Always try to keep your pieces protected. So that's why, to avoid any funny business, you see, and that's how the strong players play. They are thinking using prophylactic thinking already from the opening. One of the main remarkable things you see about club chess players, they play the opening whilst their eyes are closed. They read somewhere or they watched a video on YouTube or their coach showed them some lines, so they just punch the moves. You know, they don't care what is happening, they just punch the moves. But you can see already, and I'm not even looking in detail compared to how grandmasters would analyze such positions. There's too many things happening already whilst people are getting their pieces developed. So I would really encourage to train the habit not to play the opening carelessly. No matter how much you know the moves that you must play, try to always find the ideas of the opponent and stop them. And there's the psychological side to this, by the way. Let me just give this as a tip. When you prevent one or two of your opponent's plans, it will get them very frustrated and they'll make many, many mistakes. Sometimes, this is also a very cute point of prophylactic thinking. If you don't find ideas of what to do, it's simple. Start playing to stop the ideas of the opponent. Usually, I hear many players, no, I don't have a plan. I don't have a plan. I don't know what is the plan. The plan is simple. If you don't have a plan for yourself, the plan is to stop the opponent's plans, right? That is a rule of thumb when it comes to prophylactic thinking. If you are not sure what you must do, try to stop what the opponent is doing. So by just stopping one or two of their ideas, they'll get frustrated and will start to make bad moves. As soon here, Mr. Keres had been clever, waiting for c6, trying this bishop g6, but ultimately he was outplayed. After this very powerful move f3, this is a key moment. White will threaten to play e4, threatening to make a fork, and the threat of e4 is too powerful. So now Mr. Keres realizes that his idea wasn't very good, so he has to move back. By the way, this is just a bonus. Sometimes if you realize that you made a bad move, don't be too shy to move back. If you want to grow in chess, it's acceptable to go back. You know, sometimes we don't always find the best plans. So when we don't find them, it's okay. Let's try and regroup and not because as I was reading, I don't know when it was, but that who said this? Yes, the former world chess champion, Tigran Petrosyan, who's again a master at prophylactic defense. Maybe as some would say, that he was too masterful at it, that he ended up only using it all the time, even to a point where it was unnecessary. The man simply did not lose chess games. He could go for many years without losing a single competitive chess game. He was a master at this technique of prophylactic thinking. One of the best. Him and Anatoly Karpov are two of the outstanding players to follow their games. And by the way, this technique, if you really want to learn it, find top grandmasters who are renowned for this and follow their games. See how they use this thinking in all the phases, opening, mid game, end game, and then in combinations also. So, okay, so now the rest will play a little bit quicker if we are going to cover all the games. And now here the opening battle was won by Mr. Botvinnik. Mr. Keres' position is very passive. There is no plan for the black pieces. The knights have no squares somehow, you know. It's a bit, the knight on g6 is a useless piece. The knight also here on f6 is limited by the pawn. That's one important thing about pawns. Pawns limit our own pieces as well as the pieces of the opponent. So the knights have no moves to go forward. So yeah, the game soon was lost because as you can see, the machine calculating at a very high depth, 38 is quite deep. So you can trust this evaluation. It says white has a better position. 0.7 means white is better position. And usually what it means, white is winning chances. If your advantage is bigger than 0.7 or even 0.5 already, you have winning chances if you play properly. But that's also an important thing. Sometimes many people relax when they know they are winning. As it has been said, the famous saying, it's more difficult to win a winning position than any other position. Because when you are winning, your prophylactic thinking should be to find out what is the best defense the opponent can come up with and try to make sure you don't allow it. And the defender, their prophylactic thinking is trying to stop the threats, right? So you can never relax. This prophylactic thinking makes chess worthwhile. It starts becoming exciting because some players get bored over the chessboard. The simple, one of the reasons anyways, is they're not engaging with the position. But when you train this habit of prophylactic thinking, you are going to be more interested in your chess games because you are living in the games. You are living moment to moment. You are thinking for yourself and going and sitting in the other player's position. What would they play if it was their move here? What do they want to do? And then you go back and sit in your own position. And this, you can check me on this. Just go on YouTube and find kibitzing by super grandmasters. When they sit together, the other one will even play for the other one, and the other one will do the same. They see so many possibilities of what the other guy could have done. It's as if they were playing two games at the same time. But that's how this prophylactic makes chess more rich and more amazing. The lines that those people see are just overwhelming. You'll be shocked how much they see whilst they are playing against each other. Of course, they do remember some famous games that help them to find moves, but still, every time when they play, they try to have a balanced way of playing where they'll be in their opponent's position as well as in their position. So being objective is very important. Don't be biased. You can't play hop chess. If you want to train this habit, you are going to have to be honest about your position. If I have a bad position, my position is bad. I can't be hopeful with a bad position saying I'm just going to find a checkmate somehow. That's hoping chess. If you have a bad position, you need to find a way to survive. And if you have a winning position, you need to find a way to stop the opponent from increasing or from mating you, first of all, finding only moves until there is an opportunity to come back. So we'll play through the rest of the game a bit quicker since the point has been highlighted. Yeah, the opening battle was won by the former world champion. And in the end, here, these knights were very miserable. The knight on d5 is quite active, and soon enough, it was exchanged. This bishop goes here to exchange the most active piece so that black's pieces really have no future. And after this, there was a threat in the position. So even if you are losing, don't give up hope. Just keep practicing the habit. What does the opponent want to do? And what would they do in their if it is their turn to move? So there was a threat. So g6 is necessary. And white exchanging is the only good piece that black has, the knight, and gives the weakness, the isolated pawn. And now here it takes the open file. And yeah, tactics, right? Of course, why didn't black take on f5? Would like to answer here. Why did black not capture on f5?
Isn't it rook g3 check followed by queen to f6 mate?
Yeah, and you notice what's interesting. You only saw yourself checkmating the opponent. They have another move they can play that won't allow you to checkmate them, yeah? So this is the, you see, it's not an easy thing. What other move instead of the one that loses on the spot can black come up with?
Knight to g7?
Yes, exactly. So that's what I was saying earlier on. If you are winning, try to find the best defensive move the opponent has. The reason why it's more difficult to win a winning position than any other position is because we get overexcited about our chances. Always practice how to find the best move by the opponent, because here the attack won't work. So why didn't Mr. Keres take this glorious opportunity of winning a piece? You know, why did they not take this knight?
Good evening. Good evening.
Good evening.
I think here it's an instant checkmate. After rook g3 check, then we have queen on f6, which is not we can't prevent the mate there.
All right, okay, so this is an improvement from the earlier line. So check. So we are saying after knight g7, you are now saying queen f6 now.
Yes.
Yes, very good. That is the answer. This is the move that wins, right? So, by the way, I challenge you to come up with the best move, so that this is a habit. By the way, it's not enough to say now I now know the two main questions of what prophylaxis is. So now it will just jump on me. I'll become a very strong player with prophylactic thinking. No, it doesn't work like that. This habit only happens by you exercising it, by going through games and making sure you calculate accurately. So it's not enough to know the theory. You need to really practice it a lot. So here in the end, the opponent was overwhelmed. There's too many attacking pieces. We'll just play quickly through the moves. And yeah, here they resigned. Right. A tactical pattern on the board. The knight is permanently pinned against its own king, so it cannot move. And here, the opponent resigned. It's simply a lost position where black has no counterplay whatsoever. Okay, so let's go to the next game. So the next game, we'll skip through much of it since we are focusing on the middle game. We'll go to the key moment in this position. So this game was played by former world champion Anatoly Karpov. Like I said, the two people to look to, Anatoly Karpov, former world chess champion, and Tigran Petrosyan, former world chess champion. They were masters of this technique of prophylactic thinking. And as well, the man that put forward this concept at the beginning, Aaron Nimzovich. You can look at his games. Since they are classical games, there's many things to be learned, because he understood the concept before many people understood it, so you could really use it in instructive positions. So yeah, and as the advanced class, I must be very honest. Chess, if we want to improve, all of us, we must be willing to do the hard work. None of these things will jump on us. We must be willing to do the hard work, to look at the games and to practice this habit of asking those two important questions and knowing when to prevent threats and when not to prevent them. So we have this position here, and we reach a key moment in the game. It's a pity. I didn't hide the moves. Well, now everyone has seen the moves. Okay, anyways, maybe we'll just, yeah, apologies for that. I forgot to put this thing to hide the moves, because now I'm sure everyone has seen the move. Anyways, we'll just check. So the idea here was, okay, maybe let's put it this way. Why was it necessary to play queen to g4? Since the move, I'm sure many have seen it now. Let's ask ourselves this. So this is the exercise. This one will be a bit quicker now, since you have done it a little bit for an hour now. What is your opponent going to do? That's the first and most important thing to ask. And the second thing, what would they play if it was their move? So this, you can't know from seeing the answer that Mr. Karpov came up with. So try and tell me, what does black want to do, and what would they play if they could play in this position right away?
I think here black would like to play f6.
So why would black want to play f6?
I think the pawn on e5, it kind of make things difficult for him on the king side. Like the pawn kind of adds to the attack. It could support pieces which would jump to that side later.
Okay, but I would think it creates a weakness for black, no? If you play f6 and we can just take maybe, and what you take with the rook, and black is at least a backwards pawn to give white an extra target. So black can't be trying to play f6, but at least I see what you're trying to say. It stops, it gets rid of the space advantage that white has in the center, but it's not the key idea. So when you want to find out what is the opponent going to do, you must try to find moves that will cause problems to you. As you can see here, the idea of prophylactic thinking was put forward by Aaron Nimzovich. So this is the explanation was, prophylactic thinking is a measure which you take to stop, to prevent something that is not good for you. Undesirable, it's not good for me from a positional point of view. And positional chess is usually an open file, a long diagonal, the squares that the pieces can move to, you know, the king safety and all of these things. So it must be something that will be very unpleasant for us. So maybe f6 is not too unpleasant. It actually helps us have another target. So who else would like to try?
Wouldn't black's plan be to try and play rook to c8 and try and contest for the open file?
Yeah, that could be one plan. Yeah, black could try to play one of the rooks, challenge the open file. Yeah, that's possible. But it's not the main idea, but I'll give it away. The idea was, this was the threat. The threat was to play a5 followed by a4. a5 is a concrete move. It threatens to win a pawn. Right? If we take here, we weaken our pawn, we'll get an isolated pawn. And also for black, they have an isolated pawn. And there's a principle in strategy. If you have a weak pawns must be pushed. So this would make sense for black to push a5, threatening to exchange on b4. And if we don't exchange on b4, black is going to play a5 to chase away our good knight, where it won't have many good squares to jump to. Because jumping on c5, the opponent can play even knight captures here, right? So yeah, we can also verify some of these things with the machine, because I'm only speaking from what the book suggested. So here, this position, the computer went and would play queen d2 here, the very strong Stockfish 13. In the game, Mr. Kapo found this move. So this move was intended to stop this a5 idea. And at the same time, it has a threat in mind. So maybe I'll do that and hide. What was the threat that, because this now can't be played. Why can't a5 be played now? Why would it not be wise for black to go on with the plan of a5? So why is it bad for black to play a5 now? How does queen g4 refute or proves that this idea doesn't work now? How does this work? Such a mysterious move, queen g4. So why would that move be preferred? Yeah, today we are thinking a lot. Huh? Well, that's this one. There is no shortcuts. We can know at least some of the theory, what we need to do, but thinking is the only way to improve this ability, this skill in chess, is to actually think. It's the one thing in general we don't like as people. We don't like to think or come up with ideas, specifically something to stop the opponent's plans and all of that. But yeah, we must be willing to start this habit as soon as possible. It's tremendous for your chess. Okay, so the idea is this. If you play a5, the point is bishop h7 check. That's why queen g4 refutes this threat. Because now if the king takes, there is queen h4 check, double attack time, right? The tactical patterns, and then the knight will be collected. At the same time, the queen will protect the b4 pawn, right? And after this, okay, just to verify what the book was teaching, let's just make a random move for the computer and see if it's if it will come up with this a5 move. Yeah, instantly a5 is the move that is suggested. So, right, the book was telling us the truth. By the way, the Mark Dvoretsky, the late Mark Dvoretsky, the greatest chess coach in the opinion of many grandmasters, not just many people in general, but even top grandmasters. Oh, I'm still here. I thought the internet had disconnected again. So yeah, in the opinion of many top grandmasters, was one of the greatest chess coaches. He taught this prophylactic thinking a lot. This was one of the main things that he taught, is this prophylactic thinking. So it's from his book that these positions I got and the idea. So it was f5 that black wanted to get, but queen g4 was stopping that because of tactical reasons. And here black, seeing that the threat was h7, black responded by playing f5. So the rest of the game, we'll just quickly go through it. So in the end, what did white get out of this? White is 2 pawns versus 1. So white is definitely going to get a pass pawn, an outside pass pawn for that matter. And white has a lot of pieces on the queen side and controls the only open file on the chessboard. So clearly, white has better chances to win here. Black is trying to come up with the counterplay in the center and as well as on the king side, but black was never in time. The knight even jumps into the opponent's position, threatening knight to a6, bringing the rook to the 7th rank, and black can resign. So yeah, here. But also you notice this point. Even though black has a bad position, black still had to use prophylactic thinking. What does white want to do? White wanted knight a6, preparing rook to c7, which is lights out. It will be making a double attack on the two pieces here. And so even black still uses prophylactic thinking. Stop, because this we must prevent. That's the point. Prophylactic thinking, we only need to use it when we prevent real threats. We don't want to use prophylactic thinking without defending real threats. It's interesting, the computer doesn't even care about the pawn anymore. So let's just see quickly this. So a5 is apparently stronger than knight a6. Okay, rook b7 would stop the idea. Okay. Yeah, but it still should be a good idea. The rook can come to the 8th rank. Yeah, white has an advantage, I was thinking. Right, okay, anyways, let's carry on. a5, and then finally knight a6 is played. Black is trying to create counterplay in the center, but yeah, white's advantage is very clear. The weaknesses are too much, and yeah, as we can see, black lost in the next few moves. So let's try to just see the end game. These games are on the Leisure Study Everything here. You can go through it yourself at your own pace and try to apply the things that you have picked up. So here we are going to go to the key moments. By the way, these commentaries are not mine. I only put this point key moment. The commentaries, I just took the game from chessgames.com. So someone was doing the annotations. But I'm sure they will be worthwhile still to consider. But this is the position that I was interested in. Is the key moment is here. So we have here the man that came up with this idea of, or at least discovered this idea of prophylaxis, Aaron Nimzovich, who was playing with the black pieces. He is the one who put forward this idea of prophylaxis. So now we have at least one example from him. So in this position, what would you play here after rook d1? What would you play here? So the two questions remain there. What does the opponent want to do? And what would they play if it was their turn to move again? So you have about 1 minute or so to just try and come up with a move for black and try to say at least what white wants to do. Yeah, and I hope you all can hear me. Hello?
Yes, we can hear you.
Oh, okay, great. No, I just wanted to confirm that. Yeah. So we'll pick it up at 8:14. So let's try to answer those two questions and what you would play to answer the move that a white would play. Okay, it's 8:14. So if anyone has some ideas, and then they can just unmute. Okay, no one has ideas. Maybe I'll just pick someone randomly. Okay, is it Smiley? Yeah, Smiley, I think it's the name. What is your opponent going to do? So what is white going to do in this position? If they, what do they want to do?
I
This is the
think they
position
want
that you have
to.
to assess. What is white going to do in this position? Smiley is with us.
I think moving the. I think attacking the square in the squares in the middle by moving one e3 to d4.
So you are saying what you would play.
Were you asking what is white going to do or black?
Yes, so that's the first thing. Remember, we are learning prophylactic thinking. So we must first be concerned with what the opponent wants to do. And then what would they play here if it was their turn? Only then We can try to find a move that stops that, or if we should stop it. That's the 2 point. Okay, because of time, let's hear from Rowan. Rowan, what did you get from here?
I was thinking that White might try to break with G4. That's why they played H6, but they need to try and stop the rook coming down the H file. So I wasn't too sure exactly what White's plan is, because I thought his main idea would be to play G4, but because of this idea of the rook coming down, I feel like they have to try and defend that. Oh, play extra moves just to get that in, so it's not quite viable for them. But I don't really see anything else White can really do, because the light squared bishop is so strong on the diagonal. So struggling to find moves for White.
Okay. No, thanks. All right, so I think Smiley said to play in the center, which probably you were saying E5 would be the move you would play. So is that correct?
Are you asking me or Smiley?
No, Smiley. I'm asking Smiley.
Okay.
Smiley, you were suggesting E5.
Yes, but after hearing what White might do, I think the best option to play is F5 instead, not E5.
Okay. Yeah. No. So yeah. Okay. E5, even if we would play, weakens our pawn structure. So usually in the endgame, we must establish this. There are two main plans in the endgame. The number one plan is to do what in the endgame? Who knows? What is the number one plan in the endgame? Yeah, anyone can answer.
Is it to try and get a passed pawn?
Exactly. That is the most important plan in the endgame. When you reach the endgame, the main plan is to get a passed pawn. That's number one. And then the second most important plan is to activate the king. The king needs to be centralized, right? So that it can attack the weak pawns of the opponent, the pawns that cannot be protected by other pawns, or to help our passed pawn to quit. So here in this position, king g6. The opponent, as you have discovered, had nothing that was really happening. There was nothing, there was no threats. So we can carry on with our plan. So the prophylaxis only works when we are defending. We must prevent real threats. If there is no real threat, we don't have to waste our time. We can carry on with our own plans. Because really, if you were to think of it in a simple way, prophylactic thinking is this. You want to stop the opponent's plan so you can continue with your plan. But if the opponent's plan is not a real threat, we don't have to waste time. We can continue with our plan. But the whole point of prophylactic thinking is at all times you need to be keeping in mind what does the opponent want to do and what move would they play now. And if it's a real threat, we must prevent it. But if it's not a real threat, we must allow it because it's a mistake. Right? So here, as Rowan said, White had no moves. White was just shuffling back and forth, but at the same time gave us opportunity to activate the king. And now here, now is the time to create a pass pawn because we've activated the king. The king is near the center. It's there to support the pass pawn. And now this moment, White. Now, of course, I should ask a question. Why did so why did the opponent not capture on h5 here?
King to g6, discovered check, picks up the rook.
Yes, so that's one thing I can also just add as a bonus. Always watch out for these one move endgame tactics. So there is a check here, the discovered check, and the rook is lost at sea. Right, okay. So after this, still we give the discovered check, and pass pawns must be pushed. That's a rule in the endgame. The pass pawns must be pushed. And now our rook is on an open file. We are able to enter into the opponent's position. White is absolutely nothing to play for here. They could resign really. But of course, the top players never resign. So that's also important to encourage you in the advanced group. When you play stronger players, even if you have a winning position, they will never resign. They will make sure they'll keep just shuffling pieces around, waiting for you to get nervous or get frustrated and make a mistake. And maybe this is the main takeaway. The most difficult position to win is a winning position, right? You must try to, you must always try to make sure that you constantly check what are they going to do and what are their plans. Oh, okay. Oh, sorry about the network problems, Monash. Welcome back. I was just adding that usually when you play strong players, even if you have a winning position, they will not resign. So just be calm and continuously try to use this prophylactic thinking to defend the real threats, to prevent them, and as well to continue with your plan if there is no real threat. So we'll just play the moves quickly here. This will be the last game. We'll look at the other one. You can look at yourself since we've exhausted the subject in this time. And but I hope at least you leave with something to use now, because like I said, this concept, it's not enough to know the theory. You actually need to do a practical work. And that is the point of activating the king in the endgame. The king is activated either to attack the weak pawns of the opponent or to support the pass pawn to make a queen. So your king must be very active in the endgame. And here, the opponent resigned. Uh, who would like to try and tell us why white resigned in this position? Why did white resign in this position?
Because his dark squared bishop is under threat and it can't maintain the diagonal for the promoted pawn.
Exactly, very good, Rowan. The point is the bishop is now under attack. It's defending e1, so there are two defenders, but now it can't stay here. Its own pawn is limiting it. If it moves anywhere else, e1 makes a queen, the rook must sacrifice itself, and black wins a very nice game. All right, so the game here in combinations, you can play through it yourself and try to apply what you have learned. But also these other games, please, if you miss anything, go back to them, try to walk through it. This one is very useful because it also comes with annotations. Again, it even comments by the player themselves. So what do they say? So the win is not too difficult now, in spite of the annoying checks. So this actually might be the own commentary from the man himself, uh, Aaron Nimzovich. So you learn a lot. That's, by the way, the one way to develop this kind of thinking is that if you can get games that are commented or annotated by the players themselves or a very strong grandmaster, you will learn a lot about decision making, and particularly this subject is the prophylaxis. So the two players to really go and find out more about Anatoly Karpov and Tigran Petrosyan, and as well Aaron Nimzovich, you can also add there. But those two former world champions were very famous for this prophylactic ability. They were amazing. So yeah, I'll stop here to invite any questions if there is any questions. Okay, no one has any questions. Okay, so if there's no questions, I'm taking it for granted that everyone understood everything. Yeah, Smiley, you have something to say? Hello, Smiley, do you have a question? You unmuted. Oh, okay, no, that's fine. So I would just like to add this. There is the lesson plan. You can go and play over those games on the lecture study. There is also the videos for further study. Right, for the serious chess learner, there are those extra study material. Again, it's not enough to just sit through these lessons. You must be willing to put in the hard work necessary if you really want to put the skills you have learned into use. And it's a continuous thing. Is the key word there is habit. In real life, to train a habit, you have to be doing it every day. But yeah, that's all from me tonight. Thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I wish you all the best in your chess.
Thank you for the lesson.
You're
Okay,
welcome.
thanks, Coach Dione, and thanks everybody for attending. Just a reminder, our topic next week will be the technique of calculating variations. So we do look forward to having you once again joining us for next week. Thanks very much.
Thank you, Mr. Kamarcus. Thank you, everyone. Good night.